She's not a real daughter, she's adopted." My Aunt Lorraine's voice cut through the family room like a knife. Loud enough for everyone to hear. Deliberate enough that there was no mistaking her intent. The lawyer had barely opened the folder containing Grandma Ruth's will. We'd buried her just a week ago, service on Tuesday, reception at the church hall, everyone in black pretending they'd visited more than twice a year. Now, we were gathered in Grandma's living room for the reading. Lorraine sat in Grandma's favorite armchair like she'd already claimed it. Pearls at her throat. Designer handbag on her lap. That smile she wore when she was about to say something cruel disguised as truth. She looked at me, then at the attorney, Mr. Colton, and said, without shame, without hesitation, "Only real daughters get inheritance. Everyone here knows Elise isn't blood, so let's not waste time pretending she has any legal claim to my mother's estate." Nobody flinched. Nobody spoke up. My cousins studied their shoes. My uncle shifted uncomfortably, but said nothing. And I just smiled. Because I already knew what the final page of that will said. Grandma had told me, 2 months before she died, exactly what she'd done. But Lorraine didn't know that yet. My name is Elise Carter. I'm 29 years old. I was raised in Maplewood, a small town where everyone knows your business, and gossip travels faster than truth. And yes, I'm adopted. My parents tried for 14 years to have a child. Fertility treatments, specialists, prayers, disappointment after disappointment. Finally, when my mom was 42, they decided to adopt. That's when they found me. 3 months old, born to a teenager who couldn't keep me, placed through an agency, chosen. My parents always told me I was chosen, that I was wanted, that I was loved not despite being adopted, but simply because I was theirs. My mom passed when I was 17. Cancer. Swift and merciless. After that, my dad fell apart. Started drinking. Couldn't hold a job. We lost the house within 2 years. That's when Grandma Ruth stepped in. "You're moving in with me," she said. Not a question. A statement. And we're going to get through this together. From that point on, she wasn't just my grandmother. She was my lifeline, my stability, my proof that family could be chosen and still be real. She taught me everything: how to cook, how to budget, how to stand up for myself without becoming cruel, how to be strong without being hard. She never once used the word adopted like it was a qualifier. Never said, "my adopted granddaughter," just "my Elise." To her, I was simply hers. But Aunt Lorraine never saw me that way. Lorraine is my mom's only sibling, the biological daughter, the one who got Grandma's eyes and nose and stubborn streak. She's loud, condescending, and treats family relationships like competitive sport, always keeping score. Always reminding everyone that she's the real daughter, the blood, relative, the one who matters. She married a dentist, lives in a big house in the suburbs, drives a BMW, sends her kids to private school, posts constantly on Facebook about her blessed life and grateful heart. But she wasn't around when Grandma needed her. Wasn't there for doctor's appointments when Grandma's arthritis got bad. Wasn't there for grocery trips when Grandma couldn't drive anymore. Wasn't there for the nights when pain kept Grandma awake, crying quietly so she wouldn't wake me. Lorraine sent checks sometimes, called every few weeks, visited on major holidays, and stayed exactly long enough to take photos for social media. "You're already living with her?" she'd say when I asked for help. "It's easier for you to handle things. I have so much on my plate with the kids and Mark's practice." So I handled it, managed medications, cooked meals, helped Grandma bathe when she couldn't manage alone, held her hand through every small indignity of aging, and Lorraine showed up, to the funeral in designer clothes, and acted like she'd lost the most important person in her life. When Grandma got sick last year, really sick, the kind where doctors start using words like palliative and comfortable, Lorraine offered support from a distance. Phone calls, care packages with magazines and lotions Grandma couldn't use, suggestions about facilities that cost more per month than I made in a year. "Have you looked into assisted living? I found this wonderful place very dignified. Grandma wants to stay home." Well, that's not really practical, is it? You can't possibly manage her care alone. I'm managing fine. "Elise, I'm just trying to help. You don't need to be a martyr about this." But I wasn't being a martyr. I was being a granddaughter. The difference was something Lorraine had never understood. The last 6 months were hard. Grandma declined steadily, less mobile, more pain, occasional confusion. Hospice nurses came 3 times a week. I took leave. From my job as a paralegal to be home full-time. Lorraine visited twice, stayed for an hour each time, took photos with Grandma for Facebook, posted captions about cherishing every moment, and family is everything. She sent flowers once. Lilies. Grandma was allergic to lilies. 2 months before Grandma passed, we had a quiet night on the porch. Summer evening. Fireflies in the yard. Grandma in her rocking chair, wrapped in the afghan she'd crocheted 40 years ago. She was tired, the kind of tired that sleep couldn't fix. But her eyes were bright, alert, focused on me. "Elise, honey, I need to tell you something." "What's wrong? Are you in pain?" "No, not that kind of something." She reached for my hand. "I've been working with Mr. Colton, my attorney, getting my affairs in order." "Grandma, you don't have to do." "Yes, I do, and I want you to know it's all taken care of. Everything." "What do you mean?" She smiled. That small, knowing smile she got when she was about to say something important. "I mean, Lorraine's going to have opinions. She always does. But it won't matter. What's done is done." "I don't understand." "You will, when the time comes." She squeezed my hand. "Love makes a daughter, Elise. Not DNA, not biology, not whose name is on a birth certificate. Love, choice, showing up. That's what makes family real." I didn't know what to say. Just squeezed her hand back and sat there while fireflies danced and Grandma rocked slowly, peacefully, like she'd settled something in her mind. A week after the funeral, I got a call from Mr. Colton. "Miss Carter, I need to schedule the formal reading of your grandmother's will. Can you come to my office Friday afternoon?" "Of course. Should I? Is there anything I need to bring?" "Just yourself." "And Elise? Your grandmother made some amendments in the final months. Significant ones? I think you'll want to be prepared for family reactions." My stomach tightened. "What kind of reactions?" "The kind that happen when people don't get what they expected." That same day, I got a text from Lorraine. "Will reading Friday at 2. Don't be dramatic about not getting anything. You're not entitled just because you lived there, but come if you want to feel included. Family should be together for these things." I stared at that text for 5 minutes. The casual cruelty of it. The assumption. The certainty that I'd be shut out. I didn't respond, just marked my calendar and waited. Friday arrived. I drove to Grandma's house, my house now, though I didn't know it yet at 1:45 p.m. The family was already there. Lorraine had let herself in with her key, made herself comfortable. The room smelled like her expensive perfume. She'd poured tea in Grandma's good china, the set from Ireland that Grandma only used for special occasions. "Oh good, you're here," Lorraine said, without looking at me. "We can start on time." My cousins, Lorraine's kids, Tyler and Madison sat on the couch, looking uncomfortable. My Uncle Mark stood by the window. A few other relatives I barely knew filled the remaining chairs. "Should I sit here?" I asked, gesturing to an empty chair. "Wherever," Lorraine waved dismissively. "Though I suppose you'll want to be close when they explain the estate division. These things can be confusing if you're not familiar with legal processes." I sat, folded my hands, waited. Mr. Colton arrived at 2 p.m. exactly, briefcase in hand, expression neutral. He sat up at the dining table, spreading documents carefully. "Thank you all for coming. I know this is difficult timing, Mrs. Ruth Carter left very specific instructions for how this reading should proceed." Lorraine straightened in her chair, smiled like she was already accepting an award. Mr. Colton opened the folder. Mrs. Carter recorded a message. She wanted you all to hear it in her own words. He pressed play on a small recorder. Grandma's voice filled the room weaker than I remembered, but still distinctly her. "If you're hearing this, I've passed, which means Lorraine's already redecorated my living room and is probably sitting in my chair." Nervous laughter. Lorraine's smile tightened. "I'm not going to bore you with sentimental speeches. You all know I loved you in my own way. But there's something I need to make absolutely clear. This will is my final say. I made these decisions with a sound mind, witnessed by lawyers and doctors. No one manipulated me. No one pressured me. These are my choices." The room went quiet. Even Lorraine stopped fidgeting. I'm not dividing things equally, I'm dividing things fairly. And there's a difference. Grandma's recorded voice continued. To my daughter Lorraine, I leave the wedding ring I wore when I married your father in 1971. I leave you the pearl earrings he gave me on our 20th anniversary. And I leave you my hope that you'll finally understand the difference between showing up and showing off. Mr. Colton paused the recording. Mrs. Carter specified. These items, nothing more from the estate goes to Lorraine Carter. Lorraine's face went from confusion to shock to rage in 3 seconds. What? There must be a mistake. There's no mistake. Your mother was very clear. But the house, the savings, are addressed in the next section. He pressed play again. To my granddaughter Elise Carter, the house at 412 Maple Drive, all its contents, my savings accounts, my investment portfolio, the business account I maintained, the entirety of my estate, with the exception of the items specified for Lorraine. My breath stopped. The room tilted. You were there when I needed you, Elise. You were there for the hard parts, the unglamorous parts, the parts that don't photograph well for social media. Now let this be my way of being there for you. Build a life in this house. Build a future. And remember, you were always my real granddaughter, from the first moment your mother brought you home. The recording ended. Silence. Then, Lorraine exploded. She's adopted! Lorraine screamed. She's not even blood. This isn't legal. Mr. Colton's expression didn't change. Adoption creates a legal parent-child relationship. Elise was legally adopted by Ruth Carter's daughter. That makes Elise Ruth's legal grandchild with full inheritance rights. But I'm the biological daughter. I'm blood. The law doesn't distinguish between biological and adopted family members when it comes to inheritance rights. And even if it did, Mrs. Carter specified her intentions very clearly. She wanted Elise to have the estate. Lorraine lunged for the papers on the table. This is elder abuse. She manipulated an old woman. Mr. Colton moved the documents out of reach. Mrs. Carter was evaluated by her physician 2 weeks before she signed this will. She was deemed competent. She was witnessed by 3 parties. She made her intentions clear repeatedly. This will is ironclad. I'll contest it. You can try, but you'll lose. And you'll spend a lot of money doing it. Lorraine looked around the room for support. Found none. Tyler and Madison wouldn't meet her eyes. Mark was staring at his shoes. She turned to me. You did this. You isolated her, turned her against her own daughter. I met her eyes calmly. I took care of her. That's all. You manipulated her. I loved her. There's a difference. Lorraine grabbed her purse, knocked over her teacup. Tea spilled across Grandma's wooden table, the table that was now mine. This isn't over, she hissed. I will fight this. You haven't won anything. She stormed toward the door, stopped, turned back. She was my mother, not yours. You were a charity case she took pity on, and now you think you're entitled to everything she built? I don't think I'm entitled, I said quietly. Grandma decided I earned it. There's a difference. You're nothing. You'll always be nothing. An adopted stranger who manipulated a lonely old woman. Mrs. Carter, Mr. Colton said. Sharply, I'm going to have to ask you to leave. Making threats or accusations won't change the legal reality. Lorraine slammed the door so hard a picture fell off the wall. Nobody followed her. Tyler came over to me. For what it's worth, I'm glad Grandma did this. You were always more family to her than Mom was. Madison nodded. Moms, she'll be upset for a while. But you deserve this, Elise. After they left, I sat alone in the house, my house, and cried. Not from joy, just from the weight of it all finally being over. The next day, messages started arriving. From neighbors who'd watched me care for Grandma, from church friends who'd seen me at services every Sunday, from hospice nurses who remembered. She would have been so proud. Don't let anyone make you feel guilty for what you earned. You were her real daughter in every way that mattered. Even people who knew Lorraine sent. About time someone put that woman in her place. We all knew you were the one, taking care of Ruth. Blood doesn't make family. Love does. I saved every message. Not because I needed validation, but because grief was making me doubt everything, and it helped to know other people had seen what I'd seen, that Grandma and I were real family, regardless of DNA. I moved through the house slowly those first weeks. Didn't change much. Kept Grandma's coffee mug by the sink, her reading glasses on the side table, her gardening gloves by the back door. I slept in my old room, not hers. Couldn't bring myself to claim her space yet. Cooked her recipes. Sat in her chair on the porch. Watered her zinnias. The house felt full of her still, like she'd just stepped out and would be back any minute. I found notes she'd left. Tucked in cookbooks. Taped inside cabinets. Little reminders and encouragements. You're stronger than you think. Love isn't biological, it's intentional. I chose you as much as you chose me. Each one made me cry and smile simultaneously. 2 weeks after the reading, a certified letter arrived. From Lorraine's attorney. Notice of intent to contest will. Claims of undue influence, mental incapacity, emotional manipulation. Mr. Colton called that afternoon. I expected this. Don't worry, she's grasping at air. What do I need to do? Nothing yet. Let them file. Let them waste their money. The will is solid. Ruth made sure of it. How long will this take? Depends on how stubborn Lorraine is. Could be months. But Elise? I've been practicing estate law for 30 years. I've never seen a will more carefully constructed than your grandmother's. She knew exactly what she was doing. She knew Lorraine would fight. She absolutely knew. And she made sure you'd win. The court date was set for October, 3 months after Grandma's death. I spent those months alternating between grief and anxiety, working through Grandma's belongings, organizing documents, preparing for whatever Lorraine's legal team would throw at me. Mr. Colton prepped me thoroughly. They'll argue you isolated her, that you prevented Lorraine from visiting, that you manipulated a vulnerable elderly woman. None of that's true. I know, and we have evidence proving it. Phone records showing Lorraine barely called. Visitor logs from hospice showing you were the only consistent presence. Testimony from nurses, neighbors, her doctor. What if the judge doesn't believe us? The judge will believe the evidence, and the evidence is overwhelming. Still, walking into that courtroom felt like walking into battle. Lorraine arrived with her attorney expensive suit, briefcase, all confidence. She dressed like she was attending church. Conservative, respectable, grieving daughter. She didn't look at me. Her attorney opened with a painting of me as a manipulative opportunist who'd isolated Grandma and poisoned her mind against her own daughter. Mrs. Ruth Carter was elderly and vulnerable. She was in pain, taking medications, not always, clear-minded. Miss Elise Carter took advantage of that vulnerability to influence Mrs. Carter's estate planning. Then came my defense. Mr. Colton presented phone records. Mrs. Lorraine Carter called her mother an average of twice per month in the final year of Mrs. Ruth Carter's life. Visited 4 times. Meanwhile, Miss Elise Carter lived with her grandmother, provided full-time care, and was present every single day. He showed medical records. Mrs. Ruth Carter was evaluated by her physician, Dr. Morrison, 2 weeks before signing this will. She was deemed mentally competent and capable of making sound decisions. Then came the witnesses. The first hospice nurse, Karen, took the stand. How often did you see Miss Carter during your visits? Every time. 3 times a week for 6 months? She was always there. And Mrs. Lorraine Carter? I met her twice. In 6 months? Yes. Can you describe Miss Elise Carter's care of her grandmother? Karen looked directly at me. She was devoted, patient, loving. I've been a hospice nurse for 15 years. I've seen every kind of family dynamic. That young woman loved her grandmother deeply. She bathed her, cooked for her, held her hand when she was scared. That's not manipulation. That's family. The testimony continued. Dr. Morrison confirmed Grandma was competent. Neighbors testified about seeing me care for Grandma daily. Even the mail carrier mentioned I was always there. Lorraine's attorney tried to argue emotional manipulation. Mrs. Carter was lonely. Miss Elise Carter was her only company. That creates undue influence. Mr. Colton countered. Miss Carter was Mrs. Ruth Carter's only company because no one else showed up. That's not manipulation. That's abandonment by other family members. When it was Lorraine's turn to testify, she cried. Claimed I'd kept her away. Said she'd tried to visit more, but I made her feel unwelcome. How did Miss Carter make you feel unwelcome? She just did. The way she looked at me, like I was intruding. Did she ever tell you not to visit? Not in those words. Did she ever refuse to let you see your mother? Well, no, but did she ever prevent you from calling? No. So you're saying you felt unwelcome based purely on looks and feelings? No actual actions prevented you from visiting your dying mother? Lorraine faltered. I had responsibilities. Children, a husband. I couldn't just drop everything. But Miss Carter could? She didn't have children. She had a job, a life, but she put that aside to care for your mother. Did you offer to take shifts? Share responsibility? Silence. The judge took 2 weeks to review everything, then called us back for the ruling. I've examined all evidence presented. Medical records, testimony, phone logs, financial documents. The will is valid. Mrs. Ruth Carter was mentally competent. She made her intentions clear and acted on them deliberately. Lorraine gripped the table. The claims of undue influence are unsupported by evidence. Miss Elise Carter provided care that Mrs. Lorraine Carter did not. That's not manipulation. That's family responsibility. The gavel came down. The will stands as written. Case dismissed. Lorraine slumped. For once, completely silent. Outside the courthouse, she wouldn't even look at me. Just walked to her car, got in, and drove away. I stood there feeling empty. Not triumphant. Just tired. Mr. Colton put a hand on my shoulder. It's over. The house is yours. The estate is yours. She can't touch any of it. I know. I just wish. Wish what? That she'd cared about Grandma half as much as she cared about the money. Some people never learn that lesson. A month after the court ruling, Lorraine showed up at the house. No warning. Just knocked on the door one Saturday morning. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity won. She stood on the porch, my porch, looking older than I remembered, tired, angry still, but exhausted angry. Can I help you? You think you've won, she said. No greeting, just accusation. I'm not playing a game, Lorraine. You stole from me. This house, this money that was mine. My inheritance. Grandma decided differently. Because you manipulated her. Because I showed up. She stepped closer. You think you're better than me? You're nothing. An adopted charity case who got lucky. I met her eyes calmly. I'm the granddaughter who was there. That's not luck. That's love. She was my mother. Then you should have acted like her daughter. Lorraine's face twisted. You know what? I hope you're happy here. Living in a dead woman's house. Spending money you didn't earn. I earned every penny. By being family when it mattered. You'll never be real family. Never. I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. That's the thing, Lorraine. Grandma already decided I was. And her opinion is the only one that mattered. She left without another word. I watched her drive away and locked the door. Behind me, I sold some of Grandma's jewelry. Pieces she'd told me I could let go, things she'd inherited but never worn. Kept the meaningful ones. Donated half the proceeds to the hospice program that helped us. The other half went to a women's shelter in Grandma's name. Lorraine found out. Sent a text. You're disgusting. Selling family heirlooms like garbage. I didn't respond. Just screenshot it and added it to the collection of her messages. Evidence, if I ever needed it, of who she really was. I wrote Grandma a letter. Not because I thought she'd read it. Because I needed to say things I'd never gotten to say before she died. Dear Grandma, you made me feel real when others didn't. You saw me before I saw myself. You chose me every day, and that choice saved my life more times than you knew. Thank you for the house. Thank you for the security. Thank you for proving that family is made, not born. I'll take care of this place. I'll take care of your zinnias. I'll remember everything you taught me. You were my real grandmother, the only one who mattered. Love always. Elise. I folded it carefully and put it in the box with her favorite things. Felt like she'd somehow read it anyway. I renovated the kitchen that winter. Nothing major, new appliances, fresh paint, updated lighting. Made it mine while keeping her spirit. But I left the porch untouched. That was her spot. Her chair, her view. Spring came. The zinnias bloomed right on schedule, just like they had every year of Grandma's life. I sat on the porch and watched them grow and felt her presence in every bright orange and pink flower. The following fall, I started a scholarship fund. Used part of Grandma's investment portfolio to create an endowment for adopted kids pursuing college. The local paper did a feature. Maplewood woman turns inheritance into educational opportunity. The article mentioned Grandma's name, her legacy, what she'd believed about family and love and choice. Lorraine's name wasn't mentioned at all. I don't know if she read the article. She never commented, never reached out, just silence, which was fine. I didn't need her approval, didn't need her acknowledgement, didn't need anything from her anymore. I saw Lorraine one more time, grocery store. 2 years after the will reading, she was in the produce section. Looked older, tired, saw me and froze. For a second, I thought she might say something. Apologize maybe. Or at least acknowledge me. Instead, she looked away, grabbed her groceries and walked past me like I was air. And I smiled, because I owned that air. Owned the house. Owned the legacy. Owned the proof that family was more than DNA. She could pretend I didn't exist all she wanted. Grandma had made sure everyone knew I did. I'm 32 now. Still living in Grandma's house, my house. Still tending her zinnias. Still cooking her recipes. The scholarship fund has helped 6 students so far, all adopted, all working hard to build futures. Their birth circumstances didn't guarantee. Every time I write a scholarship check, I think about what Grandma told me that night on the porch. Love makes a daughter, not DNA. She was right. Blood doesn't define family. Love does. Choice does. Showing up does. Being there when it's hard does. If you've ever been made to feel less than because of how you came into a family because you were adopted or fostered or chosen in some way that others thought made you not real, remember this. You don't need to share DNA to inherit legacy. You just need to be present, to be real, to love without conditions. Lorraine was the biological daughter, I was the chosen one, and Grandma chose me. That's all the inheritance I ever needed. The rest was just paperwork.